In order to be great, you shall be the slave of all. You shall be the slave of all. And then, in speaking of himself, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. This is enormous what Jesus is saying, because Jesus is already talking to people whom God has already given rules about what it means to be in debt and what it means to be ransomed from debt. Because if you owe a debt, God says, here are the rules for how you repay that to gain your freedom. And even if you can't do that, one of your kinsmen can do it for you. And even if your kinsman can't do that for you, every Jubilee, you are forgiven. God has already established the rules for ransom. And yet he says here, I am going to become a servant. I am going to become a slave. I'm going to give my life as a redemption, as a ransom for many. You see, here is what he's saying in these words. Jesus says, y'all got a problem. And I'm part of y'all. Y'all got a problem. Because if we were simply talking about some exterior constraint, some exterior debt, some material need, all of that would already have been figured out. You could measure it out. You can count the cost. You can pay that back. But evidently, that's not the kind of problem we have, because it would have solved itself in minimum in 50 years. You see, our debt is not an exterior debt that can be repaid with limited exterior means. Our debt is an interior debt, because what we sold was not our possessions nor our property, but our souls. We sold our souls into slavery. We traded what we thought was going to be wisdom or power or influence. And in trying to obtain that, we said, here, have my soul. Your soul is of infinite value. And therein lies the conundrum. Because if you are in debt, an infinite value, how do you ransom? How do you redeem what has infinite value? And here's what God did. He says, I know, Leviticus 25. I say this by my own rules, that you can be redeemed if you cannot redeem yourself. And clearly we can't, because you have nothing else of infinite value that you possess to yourself that you can pay in exchange for your old soul back, can you? You can't gain enough wealth in the world to pay for your soul back. You can't gain enough power over the world to exchange for your soul back. You can't be influential enough. You can't know enough lingo. You can't distract yourself long enough. You can't make yourself feel good enough in exchange for your soul. But God says this, if you cannot redeem yourself, one of your clansmen, one of your own flesh can redeem you. And this is exactly what he did. God took to himself your flesh and your blood. And when God took to himself your flesh and your blood, he gained for himself the right to ransom you. Now, in gaining the right to ransom you, God has to buy back something of infinite value. How do you purchase what is of infinite value? There is only one way that you can pay for something which is priceless, and that is to exchange it for something else that is priceless. And so Jesus says, I will make myself a slave of all, so that I may serve and give my life as a ransom for all.